Prepare yourself for an exciting story of intrigue and courage. In a closed-off city, the residents are in constant fear of an unknown illness that has been portrayed as life-threatening. However, what if this ailment is merely a deception, a tool utilized by the rich to maintain control over the poor, preventing them from believing in themselves and accomplishing their aspirations? The protagonist, a daring young girl named Abigail, embarks on a mission to expose the truth. With her father's guidance, she treks through the woods utilizing the stars as a guide. Upon their return home, they encounter the foreboding head of the security department, William Garrett. Abigail embraces him with enthusiasm, but her father's apprehension is evident. He understands that this encounter may result in difficulty. With his experience as a scientist, he manages to obtain some time, sufficient only to put his daughter to bed one last time. Despite being curious, Abigail cannot resist exploring her father's office. During her exploration, she discovers a secret stash concealed behind a mirror. What secrets could be hidden within it? As if things couldn't get more intense, Jonathan, Abigail's father, enters the room and gifts her with a pendant. He then disappears, leaving behind a trail of uncertainty. Abigail's peaceful slumber is rudely interrupted by her mother's frantic screams. She watches in horror as her father is forcefully taken away, and the memories of that fateful night stay with her for years to come. Then one day, after returning from a long flight, Abigail finds a cryptic note with instructions to a secret meeting place. Her curiosity piqued, she sets out to explore the deserted city streets at night. But as she walks, she can't shake off a sense of unease. She hears ominous echoes of a message warning of a deadly epidemic that's ravaging the city, and the government's harsh measures to control it. According to the announcement, the government is using a device to identify and cull those infected, sending them for lethal injections. The entire city is cordoned off by a high fence, trapping its residents inside. As the night falls, the city becomes a playground for two rival gangs of teenagers, one rich and the other poor. But things take a dark turn when the rich gang claims to have taken a poor boy as their hostage. Abigail, a brave and selfless girl, steps forward to defend the helpless boy and proposes a challenge to Jan, the leader of the rival group. The challenge is simple: whoever lights the lantern on the top floor of an abandoned building first, will decide the fate of the hostage. The stakes are high, and the tension is palpable as the two groups compete fiercely. Meanwhile, some of their friends are caught by the patrol, but Abigail remains determined to save the boy. As Abigail climbs to the top of the tower to light the lantern, she is confronted by a security agent. To her horror, she recognizes him as Uncle Roy, her father's friend who betrayed him. Her memories of the past come rushing back, making her realize the truth behind her father's downfall. But Abigail has little time to dwell on her past as her mother's urgent call for help interrupts her thoughts. Margaret needs her to fetch some flour for Frontier Day, but Abby is afraid to leave the house. However, her mother's public shaming forces her to step out, with a patrolman closely following her every move. After returning home, Abigail hides behind a corner while her mother drops an earthen pot on the head of her pursuer. Margaret panics and packs her belongings, but Abigail reassures her that Roy won't betray them since he's also breaking the law by visiting his wife, and there's a possibility that her father is still alive. Roy is interrogated and has to answer questions to keep the women from exposing his dark secret. Later that evening, Abigail attends a Boundary Day celebration with her mother, but sneaks away to explore the tunnels using a map obtained from Roy's interrogation. On her journey, she inadvertently witnesses an interrogation conducted by Garrett, who eliminates those who refuse to cooperate. Abigail takes refuge in the home of Ethan Blake, one of her father's comrades, in hopes of finding out about her father's whereabouts. While there, she discovers valuable documents but is unable to escape in time, so she hides under a table and overhears a conversation between Ethan and an unknown man. Abigail climbs into the trunk of Ethan's car to escape, unaware that she is being followed. However, their path is blocked by a cloaked man carrying a gun. He holds the counselor captive and Ethan must deceive the checkpoint by claiming that the truck carrying people is his security. Cars stop outside the building where the infected prisoners are held. As Ethan and the stranger depart, Abby emerges from the trunk and sees a massive flying machine overhead, where wealthy government officials reside. She sneaks inside and discovers the entrance to the prison, but is spotted and forced to flee back to the street where a gruesome battle is raging. Amid the chaos, Abby is caught in a bright flash and collapses. A cloaked figure rescues her and she loses a pendant given to her by her father. Later, Abby awakens in a camp but remains unconscious, recalling a day she spent with her father near a wall that he refused to discuss. After regaining consciousness, she attempts to escape and finds herself in a beautiful, magical world. Abigail's encounter with Spencer leads her down a path of self-discovery as she learns about her newfound abilities. But her excitement is short-lived when she discovers that the government is targeting people like her. With Spencer's help, Abigail meets Marcus, who confirms her suspicions and unveils a web of lies surrounding the supposed epidemic. Things take a turn when Norman, a peculiar inventor, shows up with a mysterious book trick. Marcus chases him away, but Abigail can't resist her curiosity and takes a device left behind by Norman, setting off a dangerous chain of events. As faceless men approach, Abigail watches in horror as the once magical street transforms into a den of poverty and despair. But amidst the chaos, there is a glimmer of hope as the street begins to come alive. Spencer boldly approaches Bale with an idea to train Abby, who he believes has exceptional abilities. Abby is taken to a hall where she is shocked to see her father's picture among the criminals. Bale gives her only a few minutes to prepare for training, but her efforts fall short, leading to her ban from the war. When Abby discovers the truth about her father's identity, Bale threatens to hand her over to the inspector if she tries to escape. Determined to unlock the secrets of her powers, Abby seeks out Spencer, who reveals magical devices that he frequently forgets about. Her father's mirror comes to mind when Spencer shows her the hiding place in the wall, leading Abby to escape without explanation to Bale. In the stash, she uncovers her father's papers and a mysterious object. As she tries to make sense of it all, Margaret, her worried mother, enters the room. The tension in Abigail's heart was palpable as she revealed the truth to her mother about her father's locket. Her entire life had been a lie, her powers suppressed to keep her from being identified as infected. But now she knew the truth, and she was determined to find her father and the other gifted individuals. Despite her mother's fears and pleas for her to stay, Abigail set out on her quest. She knew the risks, but she also knew that it was her duty to free her people from the oppression of the city's government. As she sought out Roy, the man who held the key to her father's whereabouts, she felt a fire burning within her. Roy was a difficult man to convince, but Abigail was determined. She showed him her father's drawings, and he revealed the truth about the special prison where all the gifted were being held. It was a place where their powers could not return to the city if they were killed. Abigail's plan was to blackmail Roy into leading her through the tunnels to the flying car that would take her to the prison. But when she returned to the rebel camp, she was met with resistance. Bale, the leader of the rebels, refused to listen to her and rejected her proposal to attack the prison together. Garrett, the man who showed Abigail her locket and offered to join the security department. Abigail refused Garrett's offer, which led to his order for Roy to kill her. When she refused, Garrett destroyed Roy and ordered Ethan to take her out instead. In contrast to his colleague, he readily agrees to something, but Bale comes to Abby's rescue and defeats their enemy. Despite the guy's attempt to escape, Garrett uses a special device to stun him and suspend him in the air. Abby has to step in and save her friend before dragging his injured body back to their camp. Taking over from Marcus, Abby tends to her wounded friend, and they have another argument before being reconciled by a device she found in her father's stash. Bale reveals that the device contains a fairy, but they can't release it into the world since they switched sides with the government years ago. The boy convinces Abby to join their cause of saving the city, and she forgets about finding her father. Recalling a lesson from her father, Abby uses a strange symbol to start a fire and ventures down into the tunnels while the rebels launch a coup. Bale and his men manage to break through the gate, but Abby warns them that it's a trap as an army of inspectors arrives from abroad. Bale drives the men away, but deadly spells are already flying towards them. The street erupts into chaos as crowds of enemies scatter in different directions, shooting at each other. Abby becomes trapped and surrounded by gunfire from all sides, but she manages to use her powers to wipe out an entire squad. Bale then shoots a beam into the sky, announcing that the fight has started. The guy who was arrested discovers that they have been betrayed by Stella, who has been working with Inspector Garrett all along. The rebels destroy the evidence to avoid being caught, but Abby is confused as to why no one is trying to rescue their arrested friends. Unable to shout to her comrades, she releases the fairy, hoping it will help them believe in their powers. Abby gathers her comrades and gives an inspiring speech, urging them to join her in rescuing their friends. Almost everyone follows her, except for Spencer, who stays behind to confront the inspectors. Abby and her squad execute a daring plan to infiltrate the prison using a flying machine, and the stakes are high. With Abby freeing prisoners while Marcus keeps the machine afloat, the team's fate hangs in the balance. When they release the fairy, the stakes get even higher as they escape the city's confines and head for the towers where their friends are held captive. The rebels fight their way past the guards, but Abby's search for her father leaves her with a shocking realization. Instead of finding her father, she discovers his invention, a device that could potentially drain the gifted of their powers. Meanwhile, enemy ships are closing in, and the team's mission becomes even more critical. Abby must delve into her past to find the answers she needs to destroy the device and save her friends. As Bale prepares to make a daring move to save his girlfriend, faceless men infiltrate the fortress, but they quickly fall into a smokescreen trap and are taken out one by one. However, their victory is short-lived as Inspector Garrett enters the scene and decimates most of the rebels with ease, derailing Abby's plans. In desperation, she seeks guidance from her father through a series of flashbacks. In one poignant memory, her father sacrifices himself to prevent Garrett from destroying the gifted. Garrett gravely injures Bale, and just as he's about to deliver the final blow, Stella selflessly shields him with her own body. Abby solves her father's final riddle and learns how to destroy the power-harnessing device, while Bale takes out Garrett once and for all. The resulting energy wave frees the people of the city from their oppressors. In her mind, Abigail informs her father of her success, and a new beginning dawns for both her and the city.